Wuhan has been named the #1 Chinese destination citizens want to visit after the crisis is over, a study says. Wuhan overtook Beijing as the top domestic city on Chinese travelers' wish lists after the lockdown. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't wait to go. In the midst of this outbreak, have you ever wondered why you've read stories like the one I just read to you? Or seen tweets like this? From NBC News, U.S. reports 1,264 new deaths. Meanwhile, in China, where the pandemic broke out, not a single new coronavirus death was reported. How terrible is the USA, and how great is China? Or how about tweets like this from ABC News? Look at the beautiful picture. Wuhan, city where the coronavirus outbreak began, celebrates lifting travel restrictions with a light show. And boy, look how beautiful it is. Or how about reports like this? CNN caught using Chinese propaganda as a source. The press release highlighted the success of the Chinese Navy compared to the U.S. Navy. Now, I don't know about you, but when I started reading these types of articles, it got me curious. And as I'm watching and reading the news, I'm wondering why every time China is mentioned, it seems to be a pro-China piece, parroting their propaganda with no pushback whatsoever and only telling half-truths, and only then when they're forced to. This, and never placing any focus on the incredible story coming out of China. What's the story? This earth-affecting, groundbreaking, incredible story, which has affected billions worldwide? Think about it. The second largest economy in the world, with the world's largest population, wiped all the evidence clean, destroyed lab samples, murdered whistleblowers, lied to the world for 6 weeks saying that this disease was not transmittable between humans. This, while people poured into their hospitals dying while it spread. They welded people into their homes, murdered scientists, and kicked out foreign investigators. And right after the outbreak occurred, they sent an internal memo to all of their labs saying we have to tighten our lab security regarding these coronaviruses. All of this, documented and true. Yet how much time does any of this get on our media channels? Biggest story of the decade, of the century. Well, to be fair, it gets a little time on Fox, but outside of that, virtually none. Why is that, you ask? Well, I've done some research, and I think you might be just a little surprised on what I uncovered. Hello, and welcome to Media Decoded. Now, we hope that you will like, share, and comment on this video, as content like this will never be promoted by YouTube. On the contrary, they will try to stifle it. So it's only through your help that messages like this can get out. Please enjoy. So if we're going to talk about American media, let's start by taking a look at who these companies are and who their parent companies are. You'll notice quite quickly into this video that these 5 companies own virtually all the media you consume, whether it's movies, television, radio, you name it. They cover every channel you ever see. Now, if you're seeing it or hearing it, it's these 5 companies that are bringing it to you. Now, I'm aware that this graphic you're seeing shows 6, but in 6th place is Sony being the smallest, and it really doesn't have a strong American news media presence at all. In fact, you may not recognize one single thing they own related to television and radio media aside from Crackle. So, for the purposes of this video, I will be focusing strictly on news sources and the top 5. Let's go. First up, we have AT&T. These guys bought Time Warner. They own CNN, HBO, Warner Brothers Studios, True TV, and so on and so on. They're worth roughly $60 billion, and they distribute news through CNN, HBO primarily. Next, we have Comcast. You know them better as NBC and WNBC. Universal Studios, Hulu, Sci-Fi Channel, and many, many others. Their market cap, $148 billion. How do they get the news to us? Via NBC, CNBC, and MSNBC. Then we have Disney, who's literally buying everything. They own ABC, ESPN, Lucasfilm, Marvel, History Channel, etc., etc. They're worth roughly $88 billion, and they bring you news through ABC, ESPN, and Vice. Next on the block, News Corp. You know them better as Fox News. They also own FX and the Yes Network and many others. They're worth about $56 billion, and they bring us news via Fox News and Fox Business. Lastly, we have National Amusements, who recently bought Viacom, which owns CBS, MTV, Paramount Pictures, Showtime, and the list goes on and on. Market cap, $43 billion. News outlets, CBS, MTV, BET. Now, I'm sure you've noticed that within these companies, every source of news we watch here in America is covered. ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, MSNBC, Fox News, and CNN. And then the others that do news just sometimes, like HBO, MTV, etc. Anyone who purports any kind of news is covered here in these 5 companies. We can also see that they're worth well over $400 billion as a conglomerate. Bear in mind that that number is growing rapidly every year, especially because, well, that's what this video is about, especially because of their dealings with, guess who? China. All right, so let's start out with AT&T, who owns CNN and HBO. Are they going to give us a fair take on China? Let's see. A simple Google search reveals tons of information. Right away, we come across the fact that they were one of the first companies to do business with China, and therefore the most deeply connected. As China grew, so did their company. You can see here that they have a branch in each of 5 different Chinese cities. We can also see that in 2005, they are expanding their business in China. And as you can read, at the time, AT&T was expanding internationally, especially in China. Then going on to brag that it has a broader reach in China than any other service provider. Then this coming right off AT&T's website, further expansion, this in 2017. And here from China.org, stating that China revenue is slated to grow 20% for AT&T. Now, I think this is enough information that we can officially check CNN and HBO off the list of places where we might go to hear the truth about China. Okay, so we're done with AT&T, but before I go on, I want you to keep 2 things in mind, each of which is apropos to virtually every company I'm going to be talking about today. First, these are media companies we're talking about, not just any old company. It's not crazy for a company like Nike or the NBA to do business in China. I mean, I don't like it, but I understand it. And it only affects us slightly, like being in Philadelphia, Liberty's capital, and getting kicked out of a basketball game for holding up a sign that says, "I stand for Hong Kong." So much for freedom of speech in the Liberty City. But the scary thing here is these companies I'm talking about today, they aren't just any old company. They are companies that control our news, the source of the most valuable and important product that will ever be sold to us, information. The second thing to keep in mind as I go through these companies is that I am mostly going to be talking about the parent company's involvement in China. But so you are aware and realize the magnitude of these business dealings, understand that it's not just the parent companies doing business with China. Each of their subsidiaries are doing business with China as well. In this case, AT&T does a ton of business with China, but then CNN does business with China as well, and so does HBO. So this marriage goes top to bottom through these companies. It's deep, it's heavily intertwined, and it's extremely profitable. Now, as these media conglomerates make more and more money from China, the more and more they are beholden to them, and the less and less you can expect to get the truth regarding anything about China. Telling the truth about China's wrongdoings would destroy their business relationship, cause a huge hit to their market cap, and cause the layoff of thousands of employees. So let's move on to Comcast and see what their relationship is like with China. And by the way, Comcast companies that sell news are NBC, MSNBC, and CNBC. Now, right off the bat, as I search, I see headlines like this. Comcast, bullish on China. Why is Comcast targeting China? General Wang visits Comcast. And why millennials in China are the keys to Comcast's DreamWorks deal. In one article on why Comcast is targeting China, you can read in the last sentence here that Comcast considers China a market that will generate a significant profit for the company. Another article talks about China being a key piece of their DreamWorks deal, and another talks about them being bullish on opening a theme park in Beijing. Not only this, but reading on into the article, we can see they have invested billions to bring Minion Land to Beijing, a Harry Potter theme park. They've invested billions. So I think we can now safely check off NBC, CNBC, and MSNBC as venues in which you will hear the truth about China. Moving on to Disney. I'm going to Disneyland in China. Disney gives us the news by way of ABC and ESPN primarily. Of course, their agenda can be found strewn throughout Marvel, Lucasfilm, and others, but their main news output is ABC. Let's take a look at Disney and China. A quick search and we have titles like this. Disney could make $280 million in China just from theme parks. How China won the keys to the Magic Kingdom. Disney CEO refuses to comment on China. And lastly, Disney gets China approval for Fox acquisition. Now, this is the Fox movie studios, mind you, not Fox News. So let's dig in. Here's an article stating that China has become one of the most important markets for the Walt Disney Company. Here's an article stating that market access to China increases over time. Stating, as its movies and resorts are welcomed in China, the company's access grows. Here you can see the depth and scope of their dealings reading into the article. It states, Focusing on creating high-quality entertainment experiences and effectively building local and Disney franchises in China, Disney currently has businesses in studio entertainment, parks and resorts, media networks, consumer products, interactive media, and Disney English in the country. This according to the website of the Walt Disney Company. Now, how's that for intertwined? I'd say it just about sums it up, don't you? And like the other companies I'm talking about today, their tentacles run down to their subsidiaries too. Here's ESPN covering sports in China. And ABC, an article that reads, Looking Behind the Screens of ABC's China Deal. Okay, so we can clearly now check off Disney, which news outlets are mainly ABC and some segments on ESPN, as sources that will clearly not be reporting anything honest when it comes to China. Let's look into National Amusements, who recently purchased Viacom. Their main news outlets are CBS and MTV for an occasional news story. Right off the bat, we get Disney and Viacom form partnership with Chinese firms. Then we have Viacom to broadcast content on China's Beidou. You can go on to read here that Viacom's MTV and Nickelodeon will make 15,000 hours of programming available. The next article claims that Viacom is boosting Chinese presence with a production venture. This stuff just doesn't stop. I invite you to take a look. It's all there front and center. Then we have CBS itself expanding its online reach in China. Going on, we read, the US-based company with 23 Chinese websites in hand is already the top vertical internet brand in China. Folks, these connections I'm mentioning are not minor. These are major deals worth billions of dollars and spread from the parent company all the way down to the subsidiaries. Tentacles, I tell you! So why don't we now go ahead and check off CBS and a little bit of MTV as an outlet that will absolutely never give you a straight story regarding China. So I guess we're left with one. News Corp, good old Fox News. Now, I honestly have to tell you the truth. I full well expected to find the same type of information on them as I did others, but wouldn't you be surprised at what I turned up with when I looked into it? Following the timeline, it appears that in 2007, Rupert Murdoch was relentlessly pursuing a deal with China, as you can see here as this article talks about his unrelenting pursuit into the Chinese market. Then in 2010, they sell all their stake in China TV business. And in 2015, the president of China all but begs Murdoch to come back to China and do business with him, which he didn't. And that's it. No articles pointing to the fact that Fox News is doing any business with China at all. Now, isn't that something? No wonder why Fox is the only station to cover China by stating facts. It looks like we can't cross Fox News off the list of companies who may give you a straight report on China. Thank God there's at least one channel that isn't China's bitch! Now, I know many of you feel that Fox is biased and connected to the Republican Party, and it would be difficult to deny that it isn't. But it is clear that every other media outlet is not only connected to the DNC, but to China, our main competitor on the global stage and the biggest threat to our country. So whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, it just doesn't matter. If you want the straight story on China, there is only one option in our media, and that's Fox News. Now, I understand that people are so divided into their camps that just the name Fox News makes them cringe, but these facts make it impossible to deny that the fact is the one and only place you have any shot of getting a fair report on China is Fox News. And oh, by the way, the biggest story in the world right now, and for the next couple of years will be, guess what? China. So now, after watching this video and becoming informed, I wonder this. Where are you going to go for your news regarding China over the course of the next couple years? Well, that's all I got. I hope you enjoyed this video. I love making these, so with your support, we can grow this channel. We both know that YouTube isn't going to do me any favors with this type of content, so I ask that you like, subscribe, comment, and share this video. Again, I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time on Media Decoded.